Good morning, class. As you come in, you'll notice that the seats are set up in pairs, and there's 4 pairs, so find your name tag and please sit with your group mate. And welcome, everybody. We are going to embark on the next 8 weeks to learn the contents of Discover Canada Study Guide. Does anybody know why we're going through this 8-week session? Alan, you are so correct. All 8 of you are preparing to write the Canadian citizenship test. I hope you're as excited as I am excited for you. I'm very pleased to be able to share this preparation time with you, and certainly there will be a celebration event once you've taken your test and you become officially a Canadian citizen. So I'm delighted to share in that with you. The guide will prepare you for the test, and we're going to look at a video a little bit later on in the class, and it will talk about the process for the test. Susan? Yes, that's a good question. Do you have to memorize what's in here? No. Over the 8 weeks, we'll talk about the content, we'll use our experiences, we'll use resources, so that you'll be so well prepared that you won't need to feel that you have to study and just memorize. You'll just know the content. And you know, there's one thing that we've done already to start to prepare you, and that is just before we had our break, you'll recall we went on a field trip. And where was the field trip? Robert? Yes, you went to Ottawa, which is the capital city of Canada, and we visited many places in the city, but in particularly we visited Parliament Hill. So we took many, many pictures, but you'll see here are just a very few of the pictures that we took. And this one shows the Parliament building, the center block. There's 3 buildings, East and West Block and Center Block. And we spent a lot of time in the center block. And there were 2 rooms in particular that we visited amongst the many. 2 of the rooms are directly related to government. And in this study guide, we're going to talk about how Canadians are governed. We're going to talk about our history, the peoples, the culture, all sorts of things. But this particular lesson today is going to be around government. And so I wanted to show these pictures. And so we have the House of Commons, as you recall, was where the elected members sit along with the Prime Minister, and they make the law, prepare it to go into enforced through legislation. Once they prepared the law, they then send it to the Senate. And we call this the place for pause or reflection. And a good way to remember the Senate is the inside of it, as you'll recall, was the seats were red, the carpets were red, the wall coverings were red. And so stop as in a light or a red light, stop, and pause and reflect. And so that's where the legislation is sent. They can make suggestions for recommendations of amendments or additions, and it goes back up to the House of Commons where they will finalize the bill into law. So you remember those, they're very ornate and lots of information that the tour guides provided us. You'll also remember the Canadian flag flying high above the Peace Tower. And this flag, although our country is 150 years old, was actually adopted in 1965. You know, I remember as a child going to school, I believe I was in grade 5, when we adopted this flag and we learned to draw it. And it flies very proudly above the Parliament buildings. So amongst our trip, was there anything in particular when we were visiting around the downtown area that was of particular importance to you, Paul? The significance of the Peace Tower. So it goes way above the Parliament buildings, where our flag flies. And do you recall there was a special book in the Peace Tower? Heather. Yes, it was the Book of Remembrance. And that is where those Canadians who fought in a variety of wars that we've been involved in and lost their lives, their names are posted in the Book of Memory. And every day, the guard that stands there turns the page. So it was very moving to see all those names, and that was most enjoyable. You'll also recall with respect to that Book of Remembrance, we went across the street and we had a great photo shot at the War Memorial of our entire group. Was there anything else that people particularly took away from the trip? Oh, the Eternal Flame was very nice, wasn't it, Pam? And that's outside of the Parliament buildings, and that was based in 1967 when Canada celebrated 100 years. So yes, there's lots of places that we visited that as we go through this study guide, you'll remember it and you have a great visual for it. And so today we are going to do reading out of the book on page 28, 29, and 33. But you'll look on your desks and you'll see that I have put a reading card, and it's laminated. And so you don't have to, each group just reads a section. You don't have to read all the pages today in your group, just from the reading card. And as you read through it, there are going to be a variety of words that I want you to remember or pay particular heed to. And this is the word list that I've created for you. And I'm going to project it up onto the wall. And as you and your partner read your particular reading sheet, I want you to look and see if any of the words on the word list are in your reading. And if they are, you all have a marker. So I want you to take the marker and highlight the words. Because once you finish reading your section, you are going to be tasked with preparing a summary that you're going to give to your peers. So the summary you prepare, you need to use the words that appeared in your text and on the word list. And you can deliver that summary as a writing. You can do a skit. You can go to the Resource Center. There's magazines, there's newspapers, there's craft materials. You can make a poster. But whether you're doing a skit, writing, or a poster, whatever you choose, you might do a song, the words that appear in your reading and on the word list must be used. Okay? So, just to give you an example, I'm going to read a quick little paragraph on page 14 of the guide about Canada's history, and it's about our Aboriginals people. And so it goes, when Europeans explored Canada, they found all regions occupied by native peoples. They called Indians because the first explorers thought they had arrived in the East Indies. The native people lived off the land, some by hunting and gathering, others by raising crops. The Huron-Wendat of the Great Lakes region, like the Cree and Dene of the Northwest, were hunters and gatherers. The Iroquois were hunters and farmers. So, this is my text. I have a word list, not quite as long as yours, because it's just as an example. But you'll see there's a list of words, and I'm going to look in here and see if any of them are in my text. And actually, the first part of the title, Aboriginal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my highlighter that I have. I'm going to highlight Aboriginals here. And so I go further down and I see Iroquois. And yes, just read that they were hunters and farmers. So I'm going to highlight Iroquois. So that's how you go through the exercise. And remember, those highlighted words must be used in your summary. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Anne. just the words on the word list is what you're looking for in your exercise. So, for example, legislature is here. But if in your text you read legislative, I don't want you to highlight it. I want you not to use a derivative, just use the word itself. Okay? So with that, I'd ask you to, together with your partner, to read your text, make sure you refer back to the word list, highlight those words, then you're going to start to prepare your summary in whatever format that is. I'm going to circulate around the room. If you have any questions, I'll be there to give you a hand.